Hey the rulers, it's Morphin time because we're playing Dinosaurs again thanks to Ki Lua and Brad, aka Bradlua 2.0 versus Paul, who's bringing back Lucie for another run. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoco.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session. Okay, so as we get into it here, just a reminder that you can go pick up your pre-orders for Journey to Bravidra, the second set of Evil Cluster, and where you will get the packs of Antechamber of the 10 Dimensions, where you will be able to pick up cards like the wonderful stone that you are about to see featured in this match today for Bradlua 2.0. If you're going to want to get those, it's available now through Odyssey Games, link in the description. So as those of you know, Bradlua was one of my favorite ways to play Ki Lua before she got reworked, and even after she got reworked, I still thought that the changes made that Bradlua was kind of the way to play her. You're restricted to more dinosaur resonators, but there's some phenomenal ones in Wanderer and some really great control tools. It's kind of only gotten better with the cases of things like 1,000 Fractured Reflection, Zero's Light Lightning, and, you know, now the new stone. The new stone being just an absolute powerhouse. It allows you to just have a passive buff for all your dinosaur resonators, which is huge, and also gives you kind of a mana sink to just make dinosaurs, which is really huge as well, without having to burn cards in your hand, which just gives you some really good kind of value. So right off the top, we did see the Crystal Pinnacle here, which is an amazing first start. We're going to burn an ice counter to play Egg of the New Generation, also a card that comes into play here now because it's a lot easier to get 2 or more dinosaur resonators. We do have a bit of a heavier hit to try to get rid of all the ice counters, but the beauty of Brad is that it lets us do that. It's going to respond to the cast by trying to flash in a Little Maria as a holding priority after using Test Tube's ability. We're going to say Little Maria resolves. We're going to wonder what he's calling off of the Enter effect. Paul does decide to play Mirror, and we're going to go ahead and respond still before the Test Tubes to use Darkness Moonchild to pop the Little Maria. We don't want him having searchable mirrors, just not a problem that we want to have to deal with. Down comes Synthetic Spirit 1, so Paul's going to be able to generate some extra life for himself. We're kind of okay with that. This deck doesn't necessarily care too much about life totals. It's going to be able to kill you pretty quickly. But any amounts of buffer can still help Paul a lot. So he's going to go ahead and not pitch to Test Tubes quite yet. We're going to go ahead and probably just pass the turn. Bradlua is very much a call stone pass kind of deck. And with the beauty of the stone being that, like, well, if I don't really have to do anything, I could just tap the stone and try to make a dinosaur. It's a 3-2 dinosaur, which becomes a 5-2 dinosaur, or a 2-3 dinosaur, which becomes a 4-3 dinosaur because of the pump itself. And multiple stones do stack, so suddenly these dinosaur tokens that you're generating just by tapping the stone have a lot of attack to them. While he is tapped out, we're going to go ahead and, before he gets to recover, try to use Terror in the Ice. The reason for this is we're hoping to see Gone, and it burns us 2 ice counters. So going through the list here, we do see that second card off the top is Gone, Ki Lua's best friend, which is absolutely phenomenal. Hits us a stone with a type, and then lets us go grab another copy of the Dino Stone if we want, which is amazing, because now our dinosaurs are going to be swinging for +4. We also can use it to grab Crown Stone because it has the Void Magic Stone type. And Crown Stone is very nice here because it works incredibly well with Ki Lua and Brad to be able to make it so that it can't be canceled, and gives them barrier so that they can kind of make it back to our turn and help us burn ice counters. Now, the beauty of this stone is that if you control 2 dinosaur entities, it produces double will, some combination of 2 red or green, which, if you think about it, is absolutely insane considering the fact that Egg of the New Generation is a dinosaur, Gone is a dinosaur, the tokens generated by the stone themselves are a dinosaur. It is very, very easy to have just 2 dinosaur entities out, so makes the stone a powerhouse of a will generation, which is amazing. So Paul, kind of looking at his hand here, seeing if he wants to try to make any plays or be proactive, does decide to just pass the turn. We do get to draw a card because we burned an ice counter, thanks to Terror in the Ice. Before recovery on my turn, we are going to see a flash in of Synthetic Spirit number 5. This makes sense to me. We're probably going to see the Gone get axed here before recovery, just to not have to deal with it possibly getting Eternal anytime soon. Kind of deciding which one he wants to search for. So we do get to recover. You might also be saving the Synthetic Spirit for a time when maybe I have some other problems. So Paul here, I just tapped the wrong stone. Paul here is being a true gentleman. In a second, flashes in the Spirit of the Mirage Ruins, and I realize, oh yeah, I actually had tapped this wrong because I'm preparing for the fact that you have Spirit of the Mirage Ruins, knowing that I have to play Brad cheaper. So that's why with the deck plays Light Lightning, because Brad is always going to be discounted because I control a ruler named Ki Lua. So I respect for Paul for being willing to let me kind of take back the fact of how I paid for my stones there, just to be it more appropriately. Zero's Light Lightning gets Brad off the board or onto the field. Does burn me out, and so I'm kind of out of resources at this point in time. But because I used Crownstone, the nice part is that Brad and Ki Lua, it gets to survive as long as until my next main phase, which means we don't have to worry about that Child of the Darkness Moon popping the Brad and Ki Lua, which means I'm gonna get to burn at least one ice counter using it, or generate, draw one extra card off of it, which is really nice. Paul choosing to pass the turn here before draw on my turn. It looks like maybe we're going to have something. No, after draw, but before recovery, we're going to see something here. So Paul, there's two control decks kind of playing footsies a little bit here. We do see a Loki's Insight come down here. I got a lot of quick cast cards in my hand, so I'm certainly going to want to watch it. He is also holding priority and going to go ahead and use Test Tube's effect, which unfortunately does whiff there. So going down one card is pretty nice for me. We're going to see Divine Lightning come down to attempt to try to destroy the Darkness Moonchild. He tries to use Darkness Moonchild to pop the Brad, and I remind him it has barrier until the start of my next main phase, and we are currently in a recovery phase. So he's just going to go ahead and gain 600 life again. So we get the Darkness Moonchild off the board, and then we say, yep, you can have all of these quick cast cards. We got another Brad and Ki Lua, double Solaris Liberation of Wind, and a gas. So we're just gonna get rid of the gas in one of those liberations. Kind of works out nicely because now the liberation could be used to pay for the Judgment of Brad once we get there. And now my stones are kind of doing some pretty heavy work. So Brad gets to swing in for 13 there, but has precision and has to attack his resonators. But now we can just use one of these stones if we wanted to play the Brad and Ki Lua, because it produces double green. We have two dinosaur entities. We're going to go ahead and start by just drawing a card by putting a knowledge counter on with Brad. And then we are going to see use of that stone producing double green to play the second Brad and Ki Lua. So just another casual 2-cost 1300, 900 that if he removes it from the game is going to set up the Brad ruler, which is insanely good because we are playing Return of Judgment. So every time Brad judgments, we get to pop something and draw a card. Ball flashes in another Synthetic Spirit T1. Probably going to go for a Darkness Spirit at this point because my Brads don't have barrier. That being said, he could be out of them. He's going to go ahead and grab the blueberry, the one that forces me to attack it. It's an interesting grab here. Could just be probably going to be immediately pitched to Test Tubes. Draws for turn. Does look like he drew into another one of the synthetic homunculuses, the Lucie as her final form, essentially. Still not in a position to be able to judgment quite yet. Hits Alexandrite here. Could try to put one from hand. Does see the blueberry go straight into the area there. Does see Ultra Magic Stone Golem come down. And we're not going to really be able to stop that one. We don't have any automatic cancels in hand. Although we do try to respond by removing an ice counter to double his attack and defense. Oh, no, we're going to go ahead and just put an ice counter on. Doubling his attack and defense is only usable during our turn, so that's why we didn't do it. Because otherwise we could use double their attack so they wouldn't get killed by the Ultra Magic Stone Golem, but that doesn't work. So the Brad and Ki Lua's leave, which triggers, which gets us Brad, which gets us a will coin. We've already burned the Child of the Darkest Moon Godsart, so we don't really mind that. And now we have access to Return of Judgment on a ruler that can Judgment, which is pretty good. This puts us in a position to be able to pay 1, essentially, or even just use Liberation of Wind to Judgment Brad. We're going to respond to the cast of Spirit of Knowledge by trying to use that floating will from earlier, as well, because we used 2 for the stone, as well as another mana here to play Terror in the Ice, hoping to get another Gone. Wildest Predator would be kind of okay, but ultimately we really want to hit Gone because we want more mana here. Now Paul could just resolve this by searching for another copy of Ultra Magic Stone Golem and then playing it immediately, because Gone doesn't have Eternal yet, but we'll see what he's going to grab off of this spell. Ultra Magic Stone Golem might be one of the few available grabs. Then it's just a question of if he's going to immediately play it just to try to answer the Gone, knowing that the Judgment of Brad is available. Also could walk into something like a... if a second one comes down, we could see something like a 1,000 Fractured Reflections to stop it, because he would be paying 1 at that point. Does grab the other Ultra Magic Stone Golem. Will we see it be played this turn, or are we going to wait here? Because right now maybe he's like, I want to have something to punish if Jeremy reestablishes a board. Makes sense to me. We're going to move to recover. Paul's hand, not great here. Just has a Darkness Spirit and a Ultra Magic Stone Golem. So pretty locked out of resources. Can possibly cheat in the Darkness Spirit, grab another one and pitch to Test Tubes, but I'm not sure what spirits help here. Using the Liberation of the Winds from the graveyard from earlier, we get to Judgment Brad, which then triggers a Return of Judgment. So we can pop the Ultra Magic Stone Golem and produce... and draw a card, which is awesome. We only have to pay 1 now for Brad and Ki Lua, and we can use the Crown Stone to pay for it. It's still a total cost 2 card, so it will still have barrier to the beginning of my next main phase, though you will catch us absolutely missing that in a little bit. We're going to go ahead and try to crack, float some will to double the attack and defense and draw a card, or remove an ice counter, so that we're at 0 ice counters and can use the Fossil of a New Generation to get a Grand Leon, which feels great. Another big dinosaur body here. We still have a floating will available because we had 2 dinosaur entities. Looking at the gas in my hand, I'm like, I need to find a way to be able to burn more ice counters this turn. So I start to try to tap another stone, and then go, wait, I have a coin. I can use that with the 1 floating to just hard cast another copy of Egg of the New Generations. Now, what we could have done is, in response to the Egg's enter effect, we could have tapped and sacked and banished it to get another Grand Leon at that point in time, just for another body before its enter effect resolved, which would have been insane. But instead, we're just going to get the 4 ice counters and then immediately play a Terror in the Ice. And we are hoping at this point to hit not another Gone, because that is mythic. We're actually hoping to hit Wildest Predator, which we are playing in this deck. And there it is. So a 1 of Wildest Predator, the other ABC card, Mythic Pierce Eternal, which is awesome. It's getting to mainly because we want this to, it's already getting a buff for the stones. So it's going to be able to, just with Dinosaur hitting something, we can shoot one of the spirits out of the way so that we can attack more without going right at face, without kind of wasting our time. Because the beauty of Pierce is that it goes through the original attack target. But if the original attack target is his own spirits, then even if I hit it with like a 3600 Pierce, doesn't help it at all. So I do choose Dinosaur. Paul chooses Beast. So now it has quadrupled its attack and defense, which is already getting +6 from the stone, so it's 8. So now it's a 3200, which is crazy. And then we have gas because we've burned enough ice counters, so everyone's getting +2 or +12 Pierce and Swiftness. Now the Brad J Ruler won't get the plus attack here because it's not a dinosaur. That's how the new Ki Lua works, but it does get the Swiftness, and the Swiftness is the most important piece here. So yeah, lots of stuff going on here, lots of damage. We went from having a Gon on board to having over 10,000 power in attack with Swiftness and Pierce on board. Not a great spot for Paul to be in. He does have access to that one spirit, but that could remove 2 attackers essentially, one who can attack and one who doesn't have barrier, but there's still so much damage on the board that it's pretty much lethal regardless. And then just to make sure we get there, just to make sure he can't draw into something else and lock him at just being with his cards in hand, double checking what I have engrave here, thinking about exactly if I want to do this or not. We're going to go ahead and do a full cost talking into the stat lines here a little bit. So Bradlua was currently sitting at 13 and then got doubled up to 24 and then getting an 26 and then plus to another 12, so 28 or 38. Just lots of damage here. Any 2 attackers essentially are going to be lethal, and all of them have Swiftness, which is crazy huge. Double checking just what all can attack, walking through the stat lines here before going back to what I'm actually going to play. And so then just to make sure that he doesn't get anything else extra resource-wise, we'll go ahead and use the other floating that we have plus red to go ahead and cancel the automatic trigger and draw a card and remove an ice counter just to keep our value up. He does pop the Brad, and like I said, this is where I say we absolutely forgot that it doesn't have, that it has barrier and he wouldn't be able to hit it. But that doesn't really matter this turn. This is just so much damage, it's lethal anyway. So we can just use Brad to kill the token or the spirit. He can't afford to block because it has Pierce anyway. So it's just enough to be able to kill the spirit even if he blocks with Spirit of the Mirage, Spirit of Knowledge. And that spirit, we can just attack his face. So he's just gonna take all this damage with Pierce, and that will be the end of game 1. So in that game, we saw just the advantage of, you know, the still ability to generate pressure and the great control tools and kind of late game that Bradlua has. I mean, all of those are still there. You're relegated to dinosaurs, so you don't get to play like Lorites or things like that, but you don't really need them. There's so many other tools that are chance that are then able to fill in those slots that you don't really need them at all, and your card advantage is still insanely there. It's not at, you know, like you're not having to discard to hand size, but you're still drawing, like most of the time you're drawing an extra card. So we call Stone Pass, Paul calls Stone Pass, we in his end phase try to make a token using the stone, and he flashes its Spirit of the Mirage Ruins, and we're like, that's okay, perfectly fine. So it didn't cost us anything. All we had to do was tap a stone, and now we've baited out the Spirit of the Mirage Ruins, and we know it's there, which is insanely good. So we go in here, again, just to call Stone Pass. We're going to have to answer that Spirit of the Mirage Ruins, but it's going to get recovered eventually, and thankfully we have Darkness Moon Tile to be able to just shoot it in that moment, so we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. generate some extra will there with Synthetic Spirit. Gonna pitch to test tube, see if we can maybe find something. Continuing to dig. Unfortunately, a whiff there. Paul in this match has seen quite a few whiffs on the Lucie, which is not a great spot for him to be into. I ask him to let me know when he's going to attempt to try to go into combat, mainly because that Spirit of the Mirage Ruins doesn't have barrier right now, and so he's just going to go ahead and say, I'm attempting to move in combat, either attempting to move into combat or attempting to pass turn. I missed which one he was trying to do here. We do Child of the Darkness Moon to try to pop it. He's going to respond with Cursed Mirror of the Snake. Once again, burns a wonderful card out. We can respond to that. We're going to go ahead and use Divine Lightning to try to shoot the Spirit of the Mirage Ruins. Just need to get these guys off the board so that we can start generating our tokens again. He says that's fine, and then since we're in end step, it does seem like we're in end step. We're going to go ahead and try to generate that 2/3 Dinosaur token. Absolutely phenomenal. Sets us up for being able to have a second, 2 Dinosaur entities, especially if we get Eggs of the New Generation next turn for free. Then suddenly we'd be sitting at 4 will, which is insanely good on our turn 3 as a control deck. That's the thing about this Bradlua deck that I really like. It's kind of playing quote-unquote ramp without really actually having to ramp, because the stone itself just naturally produces double as you're just naturally playing dinosaurs or generating them, which is kind of insane. And the token itself is getting plus 200 attack, so it is big enough to be able to kill the Synthetic Spirit the same turn that it came in. It came in at the end of Paul's turn, so we can go to my turn, which is, again, insanely good. So we're just moving to combat here, trying to take out the Sun token. He's going to generate some extra will just to get another card in his area. We're going to say that combat's still trying to happen. He tries to flash in a Little Maria here. We are going to have to work to stop that because we want to keep his board clear as much as possible. So we're going to go ahead and use 1,000 Fractured Reflections to be able to stop it, and he doesn't have a way to follow that up, so we do get to kill that. Paul already pretty starved on cards here. Just looks like he has about 2 cards in hand, maybe 3, but it did look like it was a Fiola, which didn't really serve much purpose there. He could have burned coin to Fiola the 1,000 Fractured, but again, at that point in time he spent 3 will, and I might have had another follow-up play. We're gonna go ahead and generate another token at the end of his turn. So now our Dino Stone produces 2 will, which is really, 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 really good. We can just start going to combat. We'll hit him for a grand total of 8. Then we'll just say pass. We don't need to be like, we're a reactive deck, we're a control deck, we're already ahead in value of tempo, and it forces Paul to play out Fiola here in his end phase just to try to do something, which is not great for him to be in here. Adoraktia's Memoria, or Remains of Adoraktia is going to come down, but it is his 4th stone, so we do see Ultra Magic Stone Golem come down here, and we are going to start trying to fight over this. We have the will to be able to play into it, so we'll generate 2 will. Start with it using a Fossil Girl in the City with both of those to remove an ice counter and draw a card and cancel the automatic ability. Paul says that's fine. I've got a second Ultra Magic Stone Golem. You go, okay, that's a lot. Thankfully, it only costs 1, so we can use 1,000 Fractured Reflections to stop that one. Paul says, well, I've got a Spirit of Knowledge. I have no cards left in hand. Let's go ahead and get a 3rd Ultra Magic Stone Golem and play that the same turn and just play that and wipe the board. We say, you know what? If you played 3 Ultra Magic Stone Golems in 1 turn, we can respect that. He goes to swing in with the Fiola, and I think this is a little bit of an interesting choice. So we're going to filter to green with Child of the Darkness Moon so that we don't have to pay life. We can use Terror in the Ice. And ultimately, what we're trying to hit here is we need to hit Gone. Gone potentially could be Eternal. If we hit this... Wildest Predator works too, because it's also going to be able to kill the Fiola, but we do hit Gone, Ki Lua's best friend, which does get us a 5th stone, which is insanely good. So now Gone has that Eternal and Pierce, and is now sitting at being a 20/20, and we can just block the Fiola there. It's actually right now sitting at being a 23/23, or 23/20, and then when I call stone, it'll be a 26/20 with Pierce, which is insanely good. So calling that stone, or 24/20. So we swing in. Paul says, I'm just going to take it. I'm not even going to try to block. I'm just going to take the 2400, which is interesting. I think it makes sense, though. He is kind of threatening lethal crackback with these 2 golems, right? They're going to do 4,000 damage, and I just tapped my only blocker. So that's a fair point. We're going to produce some extra will here. Or sorry, we can't produce extra will because we only have one. So it's a matter of just like, how am I going to play this the most efficiently? And I do this a little bit wrong. So full credit, like full punishment to me. I should have also tapped the crown stone. That was what I was thinking here. To play Brad and Ki Lua for 2. I do have to pay 2 will for it. And my stones don't currently produce double will. That's just me making a clear mistake. But Brad and Ki Lua here is a great call here. It gets us our second dinosaur. So then that second stone would be able to start being used. Crownstone would have been the one to tap here so that Brad and Ki Lua had barrier and wouldn't have been canceled. Not that Paul had anything to be able to do with that, but ultimately Paul is, you know, top decking at this point in time. So we're in a pretty good spot to be able to try to see how things go. I'm going to go ahead and double his attack and defense and remove an ice counter. This is mainly just going to serve to help us draw another card just to maximize our value here. Having Brad and Ki Lua out does mean that Paul does not have a way to kill me next turn, because I can use Brad and Ki Lua to chump at least 900 damage from the from one of the golems. That's if I don't have anything else that I can use. Moving to end of turn and getting to draw. We go to Paul's turn before recovery. Thinking about the idea if I could have played Replicant Shiva there just to clear the board, but I decided to be a little bit more proactive. Draws for turn, but before recovery, we're going to go ahead and use Zero's Light Lightning, which is going to answer the first golem, and then we're going to go ahead and use Divine Lightning on the second. So a lot of lightning here on the second golem. This is not going to kill it, but it is going to remove its pierce, which means Brad and Ki Lua is just a free blocker that Paul might not want to actually let me like lose, because if I block it, it replaces my Darkest Moonchild into Brad and the value generation that comes with Return of Judgment. So ultimately, Paul's just going to try to leave it up as a blocker on his side. Unfortunately, not going to work out too much better for him, because we're going to go ahead and use the ability of Ki Lua before recovery to double his attack and defense and produce an extra red that burns an ice counter. And then we get to play Gas, Gas, Gas for the other green. That does bait out the Fiola, but we say, you know what, that's fine. Okay, moving on. We still just need to deal 500 damage. We hit another Sidha stone, crystallized stone, which puts our going up to being 2600 attack. So even his biggest blocker, because of Pierce, doesn't stop him from taking the 500, and that will be the game. So there you have it. Bradlua 2.0, still a powerhouse deck. We'll have a deck profile up for later this week. And until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.